One of the big surprises from yesterday was the DevOps Workshops, the Lean Coffee format. How many people here had a chance to go to one of the Lean Coffee sessions? What did you think? Yeah, I was sitting in both of them, and the first one was standing room only. And the second one I actually sat in on one of the tables. It was actually Scott Nasello from Columbia Sportswear in the Information Security and Compliance session. And I thought the quality of discussion was just fantastic. And so thank you, Dominica, for creating a small army of Lean Coffee facilitators and making that happen. By the way, I had mentioned yesterday that I took a course from Dr. Stephen Spear, who spoke at DevOps Enterprise last year at MIT. And I took a workshop from Mike Rother. He's the author of the Toyota Kata book at the University of Michigan. And holy cow, what was going through my head was I wish they had used the Lean Coffee format there, because I think it really helps advance learning objectives, when there's actually a structure, to small group discussions. So I thought that was fantastic. One of the things that each one of the facilitators did is, just so you can see here, there's 4 columns. It's to do, doing, done, and then continued discussion over beers or drinks or something, and epiphanies. And so I had each one of the facilitators email me the slides, the artifacts that was generated out of each one of the groups. I don't know what we're going to do with it yet, but I did want to make sure that we did collect those. So thank you for sending those in. And if you have any ideas on what to do with those artifacts, come find me or email help@itrevolution.com. So the 2 DevOps workshops, Lean Coffees, today are Leading Change at 10:55 a.m. and modern technology practices that every technology leader should know. And it will be at 1:25. So that's DevOps Workshops. Next, the DevOps Handbook is finally here, right? After 5.5 years of promising it, 5 years in making, and some of you may laugh. I mean, imagine how many jokes and how many people have teased me about when's the DevOps Handbook coming? Well, it's here. And so one of the things I'm really pleased about is the fact that there's 48 case studies in the book, and I think almost 3/4 of those case studies actually came from DevOps Enterprise. So thank you so much for everyone who's contributed in the DevOps Enterprise community, and I hope that you appreciate being memorialized in the DevOps Handbook. And incidentally, there are 3 of the DevOps Handbook authors here. John Willis, who we saw yesterday on stage, Jez Humble, who's speaking, I think, tomorrow, and myself will all be signing DevOps Handbooks at the Zebia Labs booth at 6 p.m. So it's one of the rare opportunities where we can actually get 3 people assembled. I think we've only done that one time. That was in London, where we had Patrick Dubois, John Willis, and myself, but no Jez Humble. So anyway, it's like a petting zoo. Come by, and we'll see you at 6 p.m. All right, one last thing that, before I want to preface this with a piece of data that, for me, was one of the big surprises, and was like one of the most exhilarating findings that came out of the State of DevOps report. And that's, again, with Jez Humble, Dr. Nicole Forsgren, and Puppet Labs. This came out in the 2015 study. What this graph shows is, on the y-axis is the number of deploys per day, and on the x-axis is the number of developers. And the deploys per day metric is probably one of those talked about metrics, in the DevOps community. But I think what's interesting is that, I think the deploys per day metric is hiding an even more important metric. As we talk about increasing developer productivity, I think deploys per day actually is a great proxy for that. Because what we found is, as you increase the number of developers, in the low performers, the number of deploys per day go down. In the medium performers, the number of deploys per day remains constant, whereas in the high performers, they're able to increase the deploys per day linearly as they increase the number of developers. And there's no technology leader who doesn't care about that, right? How do we increase the productivity of every engineer in the organization, whether a developer, tester, operations, and even information security? So the reason I mentioned that is because of this gentleman here, Tom Limoncelli. He's an author of many great books, including the Cloud Administration book. And incidentally, I got to meet him finally in person. I've been showing the slide for many years. I was at a DevOps meetup in New York and Manhattan, and I showed the slide, and I said, gosh, someday I'm going to meet Tom Limoncelli. And then people laugh. I'm like, why are people laughing? It turns out he's sitting in the front seat, right? So I finally got to meet Tom Limoncelli. But he said something amazing to me the other day, about a year ago. In fact, maybe to put this in context, right? If the goal is to increase engineering productivity, right? Let's put some context around that. IDC says, as I mentioned yesterday, there are 8 million developers on the planet, 8 million ops people on the planet. And again, I don't think even the wildest optimist would say that, at best, 2 to 5% of that population of 16 million are using DevOps principles and practices. And we know from the data that there's such a productivity advantage when we're using DevOps, right? We know that there's a 2,500 faster times lead times. That's 3 orders of magnitude. There's higher organizational productivity. There's higher organizational performance. Better employee satisfaction in the sense of meaningful work. So imagine what it means, when 16 million people are operating at a level of productivity as if they were at a Google, Amazon, Facebook, a Target, a Capital One. I mean, there is no doubt in my mind that when that happens, that will generate trillions of dollars of economic value, maybe per year, right? So I think it's such a huge number. So the reason why I brought up this slide is because Tom said something very profound to me, I thought, last year. He said, especially in operations, we're in this very strange fork in the road where down one branch in the road, our salary goes down by half because we're working at the Genius Bar at the Apple Store, right? And down the other branch on the road, right, our salary doubles because we have the hottest skills in the marketplace that are as in demand at a Google or Amazon, at a Target or a Capital One. And I thought that was such a profound comment because I think that what it framed is, this need to not leave anyone behind, right? The population of 16 million people, how do we reach that many people? And I think, it becomes very important to find the leverage points. I think that one of the most interesting leverage points there is the existing ITIL orthodoxy. And when I say orthodoxy, I say that without judgment or an opinion. In fact, the Oxford Dictionary says it's an authorized or generally accepted theory, doctrine, or practice. Incidentally, I learned that word from Bill Shin, who gave a talk about security and compliance. He's from Amazon. And if there's an existing orthodoxy in large, complex organizations, there's no doubt in my mind that it's ITIL. ITIL, there's over 3 million certified professionals, mostly in large, complex organizations. I can't imagine a DevOps practitioner who hasn't done battle with a change manager or a service manager, right? Who says this is not the way that this is not the way to do things. Incidentally, many don't know that actually I've definitely come from the ITIL community. In fact, the co-authors of the Phoenix Project, myself, Kevin Baer, George Spafford, we all met in the ITIL community. In fact, and the first book that we wrote before the Phoenix Project was called the VisWaltz Handbook. The subtitle was Implementing ITIL in 4 Auditable Steps. So as you may or may not know, ITIL is now in the custodianship of Axlos, who works with over 1,000 partners worldwide, and they now manage the ITIL certification program. Incidentally, they also are the custodians of the Prince2 project management methodology. There's 3 million people certified in that, and 30 million who've taken Prince2 training, which includes myself. So I'm excited that Axlos is developing a DevOps awareness training that's going to be based on the DevOps Handbook. And among other great guidance, like the paper that Kaimar Karu and Dominica Grandis wrote about using Kanban in IT operations. By the way, this, if anything, is an indication that this is not your grandfather's ITIL, right? This is it. So they are. It will be free and online. It's focused on enabling learning, and it's really intended to help bridge the ITIL community and and introduce them to DevOps principles and practices. There's no exam or certification. It's all about awareness, and it will be released in early 2017. So if you want more information on this, visit Axlos in the Expo Hall. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, Kaimar Karu has been a part of the DevOps Enterprise community from the very beginning. 3 years of conferences, 2 cities. He actually ran the service management program at Skype, and he'll be presenting a talk today called ITIL. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. So kudos on the Princess Bride quote. And incidentally, I'm also pleased that Jane Grawl from the ITSM Academy DevOps Institute should be presenting on how to make ITSM and ITIL your best friend. So if you're interested in ITIL, it's a great day for you. One of the questions that people ask me numerous times is, will the slides be available? And the answer is yes, eventually. So they will be, in fact, Robin, when will they be available?
As soon as they get approved.
approval. Okay, so stand by, right? They will be made available, and the URL was right there. And just to amuse me, if anyone could sort of pick up your phone or your Twitter device and say, how would you like your slides? SlideShare? GitHub? Any others? Postal mail? Right? I'd actually really love to know how you'd like to consume your slides. So with that, Steve, I'd like to turn it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Gene. So a couple just minor logistics, housekeeping items before we move on to the presentations here. So again, encourage everyone to go to the exhibit hall, encourage everyone to go visit the sponsor booths. The ballot game does continue. Again, there's some great prizes, iPad, Amazon Echo, Beats headphones. Drawing is tomorrow, so go ahead and get in there and get that filled out. Again, tonight, in celebration of the election, we're going to be having a DevOps Leading Change Election Night Happy Hour. That is in the Expo Hall, 5:30 to 7:30. So again, a great opportunity to spend some time there visiting some of the sponsors. And I do want to remind everyone again of the code of conduct. So again, we want everyone to kind of listen. We want everyone to share some of the learnings. But again, respect. I want to kind of reinforce what I said yesterday. There will be a lot of passion potentially around the election. So if your candidate wins or loses, let's all behave, with respect towards one another. And again, a reminder for those that weren't here yesterday, EMEA, our European DOES16 is June 5th and 6th, and then back here again next year. So I think with that, Gene, I think we're ready to turn it back over.
Awesome. Our first speaker today is, thank you, Steve. Our first, thank you, Steve. The first presentation this morning is Topo Brodie, or Dr. Topo Brodie, as we call him, Topo. He's another presenter for the third year, and I cannot tell you how much I've learned from Topo over the years. And here's some notes I jotted down. So one of the things that you should know is that there's over 5,000 engineers at Capital One, and Rich Fairbank, the CEO of Capital One, has gone on record saying we need to build a world-class technology organization. In other words, here it is from the very top of the organization saying that engineering excellence is what we need. And I was so honored to be a part of their internal technology conference, which they called CCon. So this is the software engineering conference. Topo is one of the founding organizing committee members of that. And I think at the first one, they had 1,800 people from all engineers inside Capital One. And in year 2, they had 2,100 engineers. And so just having every talk from internal Capital One engineers showing off what they've done. I mean, it was an amazing thing to be a part of. So with that, Topo.